Hey, True Advocate, it's me, Eric Carter-Landin, the host and executive producer, because I got a promotion of True Consequences podcast. I got a promotion so Jackie could get a promotion. So Jackie is the head writer, researcher, and producer of True Consequences podcast. Welcome, Jackie.
Thank you.
It sounds like a really important title, and it definitely is. You do a lot of work. You help a lot with the show. And I got tired of doing YouTube videos by myself because it's just so daunting to be the only person on the screen talking to myself. Even though I do it into the mic, it's a lot different when the camera's pointed at my face. So I had this brilliant idea to bring Jackie on and force her to be on YouTube with me.
Believe me, it was forced.
Yeah.
It was
You're a very reluctant camera ready person. Jackie has to plan ahead. She asked me a few days ago if she had to have her makeup and her hair ready for today. Jackie and I have a very close relationship. We work together very closely on all of these cases. We talk through them behind the scenes for hours and hours. We spend a lot of time going through how we're going to present the cases. I trust Jackie 100% on all of the research and writing that she does. And so she gets a lot of freedom to do it the way that she wants to do it. But I wanted to come together and do some behind the scenes conversation for our listeners. And I'm hoping this draws more people to the YouTube channel and give them something different to listen to besides our normal, super serious, super somber cases that we cover. Which is weird that my show is so serious because I am not.
Neither one of us really are. Neither one of us.
No,
really.
But we are serious about this. We are serious about advocacy and true crime. We do take that seriously. So Jackie, this is a little bit late because we finished up Father Ronaldo, like 4 weeks ago?
It's been a minute, yeah.
It's been about a month. But I wanted to circle back with you and just talk through that process. Like, I'm going to ask you some questions and hopefully you'll be able to answer them. I'd like to point out that Liquid Death is not sponsoring us. I'm just feeling a little bit metal this morning with my water, and I'm very thirsty. All right. So, Jackie, what drew you to Father Rivera's case? What made you want to tackle this story by yourself, first of all?
He'd been on my list for a while. I have a long list of cases that are upcoming. And
continues to grow.
Yeah, it continues to grow. It does continue to grow, yeah. And he'd been on the list for a while. And one day, it was like all of the cases that I bring, it's like I look through this list and he just called to me. It was like, okay, it's time to do Father Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Okay. So we did Father Ronaldo. And when I reached out to state police to get the documents, they sent me 400 pages of documentation. So that's when I came to you and I said, so I have all this documentation. Do you mind if we just do a series on it? Yeah. Because there's a lot to talk about. There's so much to talk about with that.
Yeah. First of all, I want to shout out the state police because they by far are the most responsive and provide the most information out of any agency that we interface with in this state. And they're quick.
They're really fast.
They're very fast. Do a very, very good job. Their records person is amazing. So shout out to you, records person at the state or people. We're always grateful because when we get that much information, we can actually do justice to the story. It's really hard on some cases where, we only get maybe 1 or 2 pages. It's hard to make that into a 20, 30-minute episode. Mm-hmm. So it does help us to get good information out there. And I think that was something that you were very clear about from the beginning, is that this was not going to be the typical telling of Father Rivera's story. Can you talk about why you had that thought, first of all, and what the goal was for you as you were writing this?
Father Rivera, in most podcasts, and I listened to a few from before, right? They tie him in with another priest's murder, and that's John Kerrigan. And they had nothing to do with one another, but it seems the misinformation that is tied around both of those cases comes through more than what really happened. And so I wanted to make sure that when I wrote this story, I made it very clear that this is what's in the documentation. This is what we have. And there is nothing in there to tie those two cases together at all.
Right.
Or there were several other priests who had been murdered around that time, and none of them seemed to have any connection whatsoever.
I think he did a really good job of, first of all, the beginning, laying out the history behind the church and the Franciscan order, and then talking about Father Rivera and his aspirations growing up and how he interacted with his family and his community. I think all of that was very beautifully done. But then when he went into each of the other cases and started really clearly saying what happened to those other priests, I think he did a very good job of separating it out and making it really clear for the listener to understand exactly why we don't think that he's connected to Father Kerrigan, or why we don't think he's connected with necessarily all of these other cases that were different. Their motives were different. Everything was completely different from it. I don't know how you feel, but I definitely feel like Father Rivera's was very random. It could have been anybody.
It could have been anybody. You're right. It could have been anybody. And thank you, by the way, because that was my goal. I worked really hard to make sure that I separated everything out and made it very clear that even though they were investigated together, they ended up having nothing to do with each other. His was very random. It was a phone call that someone else picked up to begin with. Father Greer picked it up to begin with.
And that phrase keeps going in my mind. Any priest will do.
Yeah. Any priest will do. And that was part of the phone conversation. He didn't care who came.
Yeah.
No, just any priest will do.
Yeah, it was.
I get chills every time I talk about that phone call.
Me too.
Ooh.
Me too.
It just, ooh.
It obviously stuck with me because I remember that very clearly, that one line, any priest will do. So it's so tragic what happened to him, and the way people try to lump him in with other priests who were not good people. You know what I mean?
Some of them weren't. Yeah, some of them weren't. Some of them were struggling with other things.
Yeah, but when we're talking about...
But when we're talking about, there were a couple in there that had records of pedophilia and, child abuse. Yeah, and they were lumped in with Father Rivera, and that was obviously not the case with him. That was another thing I did, was I went back through all of these records to make sure that there was nothing in Father Rivera's past that could come up.
And we would want the truth, right? So if it was maybe somebody who had been harmed and that was the motivation, we would want the truth on that story. We would want to know exactly why. But and it's not like we were blinding ourselves or closing ourselves off to the idea that there could be something like that. But when you looked, you didn't see anything. It
was just the opposite for me, because I took great pains to try and find something, just to make sure that there was nothing. On the surface, it seemed like there was nothing. It seemed like he was a pillar of the community, and he was very involved in the church, and he had never had anything in his background. But I wanted to make sure, because that was one thing that if it was there, I would definitely mention it. But I wanted to make sure that if I said there's nothing in his background, that there was nothing in his background, because I didn't want to be biased.
Absolutely. And we got a variety of comments on the series. I think I sent you pretty much all of them. There was one, I think, that said this was the best telling of his story that they had heard, the most respectful telling of his story that they had heard. That makes me feel really good. Means that my trust in you isn't misplaced. And it makes me really happy to know that we were able to honor his memory in a meaningful way.
I agree. And that was the goal, and it's the goal with everyone. It doesn't matter who they are or what they've done or what they were involved with. It's the goal to honor their memory, because they are all loved.
Yeah. And we have victims all the time that neither of us would agree with some of the things that they've done, but we still believe they deserve justice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they deserve that respect.
They deserve respect. And the family deserves a respect.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So it's an undertaking for you to pull something off like this. 5 episodes. I think it was 5?
6.
6 episodes. It wasn't quite as big as Dylan Redwine's case, but you did it all by yourself. So it was probably as much work for you as it was for Dylan.
Yeah, it was a lot of work, but
Yeah.
I felt that it was important because I had the documentation in front of me. And so I could follow that documentation. And I didn't want the story to be disjointed. I wanted it to, once I read through all that documentation, I had an idea of how I wanted it to flow. And it was like, okay, if I do it this way, people will, first of all, understand. And second of all, we can get rid of that stigma that kind of followed him in past podcasts.
Yeah.
We can make it very clear who he was and what he was about.
Yeah, absolutely. I know he made an impact in his community and in his family. And I know that his death was not easy for the state, for anybody who was close to the Franciscan order or the church. I know that it was a scary time.
And to this day, they still, every year on the anniversary of his death, KOAT or one of the news outlets will do in remembrance. And they're still looking for any leads or any clues or anything that might connect him.
Yeah.
Connect someone to that.
I know we have our suspicions about who's responsible, but I don't really want to get into that because I don't think that it matters what we think.
No.
It doesn't help the case.
It doesn't at all. And it's interesting to talk about that when we're
not recording.
When we're not recording over beers, whatever. But while we're recording, it's like, it doesn't do any good. Maybe it is, maybe it's not.
Maybe it is, maybe it's not. And it's not for us to decide. It's for law enforcement to figure out. But
it was a very interesting. So much happened.
Yeah.
So much happened.
It's interesting too that I don't think people realize we have to really decide how much information to include and how much to withhold, what's worth going down the rabbit hole, what's not worth going down the rabbit hole. Sometimes I think that part takes longer than actually writing the script.
On some of them, it does.
Yeah.
Because on some of them, some of these cases are still open. They're still unsolved. And I have to be very careful about what I say and how I say it so that I don't completely blow an investigation. Or we have all kinds of people listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
All kinds of people from every walk of life, including law enforcement. And I don't want to put any ideas into anyone's head going, I think, and then they go completely off the rails. Or it's probably not going to happen because it's probably not, but I don't want to take that chance.
We always try to be objective and we always try to tell the facts as much as we can and try very hard to not insert our opinions into things. It's challenging sometimes, I think, for us, especially when we're dealing with severe cases of injustice, right? Where in my PR cases, for example, it's really hard to not get fired up about these things on the mic.
Yes. Yeah. That's why I usually stay off of the mic for them.
Yeah, but I do rely on you a lot for those cases as well. And this can turn into a general behind the scenes. I feel like we've gotten, if there's anything else you want to add about Father Rivera, we can definitely go into that. But I would like to turn it around a little bit and go into a little bit more behind the scenes in general, if you're okay with that.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. The only thing that I would like to say about Father Rivera is that I was very honored to do that case. I was very, by the time it was over, when I first started, I don't want to say it was just another case because it wasn't. But by the time it was over, I actually knew him. And that's very important to me when I do these cases is I want to know the victim.
Yeah.
I want to start to really be close to those victims, any one of them, because that's important.
I think that's why I rely on you so much, is because that is super important to me. It has been from the beginning of the show to really call out, like, we're talking about a real human life here. And I love the way you did that. One funny thing about this whole thing that I'm just going to bring up before we move on is I kept trying to help.
Oh, yeah.
And you kept telling me no. Like, you wouldn't let me do it. You're like, I'm doing this.
I got this. Just trust me. I got this.
I tried to not take that personally.
But it had nothing to do with you. It was just that once I started, I was on the roll and I had everything laid out the way I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And I had that flow and I was right in there and it was like, okay, yeah. It was like, yeah, I might as well just do this myself.
I get like that. I've done that to you a few times.
Yes, you have. A couple times, yeah. A time or two.
So it's fair. It's fair. So Jackie, let's talk about what it's like to request records on these cases.
So some of them are really easy, right? I can get a hold of BCSO, I can get a hold of APD, I can do whatever, and they just send me an IPRA and look, Father Rivera. Very easy. I had that in a few days, and it was the entire thing, and it was not heavily redacted. They sent me as much as they could about the case in the past, and it was fine.
And it's all digital from the state police, which is the best part, even though it's old.
Yeah, I just download it and start going through. I try to get a hold of Navajo police, state police, county sheriff, FBI, BIA, and the Department of Justice. All of those entities. Generally, I don't hear anything back from any of them.
Nope.
And with Navajo police, you have to call them on the phone and talk to someone. And usually whoever I talk to says, we don't have anything on that case anymore because we handed it over to FBI and BIA.
Right.
Now, on a recent one, the one that's coming out now on Zach Shorty, on that one, I did get rejections from FBI and DOJ saying that it was an open investigation and they couldn't give me any records on it. But that usually doesn't happen. Usually I hear nothing. We've had people go missing in Albuquerque.
Yeah, and we don't get anything.
We don't get anything. And it's hard to say why. I think some of it is that I'm not going to say that they're reluctant to investigate. And I'm not going to say that they are very reluctant to give out any information.
They're reluctant to share information.
They're very reluctant to share information.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is because for as big as the reservation is, it's very small and they don't want certain things getting out.
Yeah.
However, on the other hand, all they have to do is tell me that. They don't. They ignore me.
Well,
and
it's hard to know if they can trust us too, right?
I think that's part of it. But since they're doing that to families too, I don't understand it. And that's the part that I can really go off on if you let me, is that they're excluding the people who are directly involved in these.
Yeah, that's the part that bothers me the most. Because honestly, covering these cases or not, like, yes, I want to help families and yes, I'll cover the cases. But if a family tells me not to, then I'm not going to. And we've done that. We had a case we were researching and the family said that they didn't want us to cover it. So we stopped.
Yep.
And we always, whenever we get records, if the family wants them, we always give them to them free of charge. We don't, even if we pay for the records, we don't charge the family for that. We consider that just like the right thing to do here at True Consequences. But it's frustrating when you see families. I'm lucky that Jacob's case was with the state police because I probably wouldn't have gotten anything if it hadn't been for them, because I don't think Socorro even has anything left from Jacob's case. So it's heartbreaking that families are deprived of something that I feel like they should have a right to.
Oh, they absolutely have a right to that.
Yeah.
They absolutely have a right to that. It's public record. They should have a right to that. Anything, even if they just got the missing persons report or a 911 call or a supplemental, something, anything, it would help them.
Yeah.
It would help them.
It would help them understand too. I think that's the thing. Everything is so secretive. And I get it. When you're doing an investigation, you have to keep things close to the vest. But there's a certain amount of information that's already public knowledge, right. Some of these cases. And that should be accessible to the families.
Absolutely. And in all honesty, if you're not going to give some sort of transparency, then it makes everyone wonder what you're hiding.
Exactly.
And a lot of these families feel like the police aren't doing anything for them.
Or in Zach's case, might have some culpability.
Yeah. Which is even worse.
Way worse. Way worse. Oh, man, I just finished that episode yesterday and you just listened to it. For me, it's such a special episode. Like, I'm so proud of it because Zach is in that episode the entire time, and it's so beautiful. Ah, man.
That is an amazing episode, and I was just overwhelmed by that. The world did lost so much talent and such a light.
Such a bright light. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know he struggled, and my heart breaks for him and for his mom for all that they had to go through with that. But oh my gosh, like, just his music it was real. It was raw. It was real. It was what he was feeling. It was his life. And I have so much respect for that.
Yeah. Another thing that gave me chills was when I listened to the beginning of the episode. I'm not going to give that away, but his music is put in there. The first part of it was just so beautiful and so real that I got goosebumps listening to it. It was wonderful. It was he did some beautiful music.
Yeah, I almost didn't include the intro for True Consequences in the beginning. I almost just excluded it altogether, but I just decided people need to know that this is what they're listening to.
Yeah, maybe. Right? Yeah.
So I put it in the beginning, which is something I haven't been doing in a long time. I've been putting it after my little blurb that I do before the episode starts. So instead of that, I replaced that part with one of his songs. And I don't want to say I enjoyed it, but it was awesome to get to hear his music and to have that playing as the story's being told.
She's
incredible.
She's suffered so much tragedy in her life.
Yeah.
So much tragedy. And it comes through that she just tried so hard.
It's the thing that struck me about Vanjie is after all she's been through, like, she could have become hardened and angry and bitter, and she hasn't. She's soft and she has a huge heart and she has so much love. Like, it just oozes out of her. You can just feel it. You can feel the love that she has for her son and for her family. And I just respect her so much. The work that she's doing in the Four Corners area is incredible. And she's out there advocating in the streets, fighting for what's right. And it's just such an inspiration.
Yeah, she's amazing. She is absolutely amazing.
She is. I told her she reminds me of my mom in the sense that she's got such a big heart, and in spite of everything that she's been through, there's just so much love that she brings to the world. And man, what a gift that her presence was for her son. And it's tragic what happened to him, but I really hope that she finds justice for Zach soon.
I do too. I hope that many find justice soon.
All of them.
All of them.
It's hard. I think that's one thing that people may not understand because of the way that we approach the show, because of the way we research, because of how we pour our hearts and souls into each episode. It's tough. It's taxing emotionally on us. We often have to take mental health breaks. You just wrote about a historical case, which is something we try to do to mix it in every now and then to give ourselves a break from all the sadness.
Yeah. And even that one was pretty sad. Honestly, it was sad.
It was sad. The true history of colonization and conquest is a bummer. It's more than a bummer. It's a travesty. It's awful. The way the genocide. Anyway, we're not going to get into this right now because we're going to go down a rabbit hole and we're going to start yelling into our mics.
We can do this. We can do this on another after show.
We'll do this not on the mic.
We'll do this not on the mic. Yeah, we'll do this in the after show.
After. That's for our OnlyFans.
That's for our own.
Oh, Jackie, I wanted to keep this about 30 minutes and here we are, but is there any other final thoughts you want to share?
No, I can't think of anything. I hope that now that we've talked about this a little bit, that people understand a little bit better.
Yeah.
What goes on behind the scenes a little bit.
And if you don't, we're going to keep doing it.
We're going to
once a
keep
month.
doing that. So you guys are going to just have to listen to more of what happens behind the scenes.
Yeah. Maybe we'll try to think of some fun things that have happened or funny things that have happened next time that we can talk about. Although I can't really think of any off the top of my head.
The last few episodes have been pretty grueling. They've been pretty serious, pretty grueling. And there just hasn't been there haven't been a lot of light moments.
No, in the amount of time we've worked together, there's got to be something funny that we've done.
Oh, we've done plenty of funny things. We just haven't talked about.
Yeah. We'll have to think about it. Yeah. All right, Jackie, thank you for being my right hand and such a huge part of True Consequences. Oh, and listener, True Consequences made the shortlist for the True Crime Awards over in the UK. So we're one step closer to official nomination. Hopefully that'll happen and maybe we'll win an award.
That would be awesome.
It'd be really cool. Yeah. You know what I loved about the application was that there's a huge focus on it being advocacy oriented and ethically presented. So that made me really excited to apply for that award just because I feel like we're out here doing the work. We're trying to produce ethically minded content here, advocacy focused content here at True Consequences.
And we work hard at it.
We do. That's something that people don't know. How much time, we could talk about that next time, how much time it takes for us to produce an episode.
My God. Maybe we can have some funny moments there because there are some funny moments when we're trying to.
Oh, definitely. Maybe we'll throw some, what do you call those? Like bloopers out.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. That would be hilarious.
Me recording is a nightmare. It's like Jackie recording. It's the same thing.
Oh, yeah. It's the same thing. When I record an episode for my show, it's the same thing.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. We love you. We appreciate you so much. Otherwise, we would just be talking to ourselves, which we'll do anyway, even if you're not listening. So whatever. All right.
It doesn't matter.
Thanks for listening. Stay safe, New Mexico.
Bye.